Hey guys, Mr. Star here, and right now we are gonna refresh for the next drip marketing. Whoa! Aventurine Waveflair Quantum Elation. Quantum Elation. Oh my goodness, that is a very, very nice looking skin, if I can say so myself. Yes, absolutely, I can say so myself. Okay, so this is going to be the second drip marketing from Honkai Starbucks. We are gonna be doing a swap back for both drip marketings at the same time, featuring Summer Robin as well as Summer Aventurine. One very interesting thing that I have came to notice is that Honkai Starbucks has pinned Bobbin instead of pinning Aventurine, if I can say so myself. Yeah, as I was saying, Summer Bobbin is going to be the pinned comment for the HSR official page, followed by our Summer Aventurine the judge. Okay, chat, what should we type? Something witty. And there it is, alright, and there it is. Because I don't think it is too out level. It would be so silly for bro to be the sustain after 2 years. Alright, it would be really, really interesting. But let's just get through to both of the drip marketing at the same time. There is this one thing from Honkai Starbucks which is gonna be for Bobbin. And I believe they... Oh, and there it is. Okay, I will just watch the Bobbin one first, and then we can just take a look and see how this is gonna be looking right here. Wow. Oh my god, she summons a little bird. Bro, I didn't know she boings like that, bro. Bro, I didn't know she boings like that. That is a very, very bouncy Bobbin, if I can say so myself. Like, in particular, like for this particular frame, if you just looked at Bobbin from the usual times where she sings and she dances and she casts her ultimate for our team-wide action video at 100%, you would never notice that Bobbin would have all that right underneath her. So I do really appreciate that Darway has decided to go for the Summer Bobbin doll right there, which is really... I believe that... Wait, is that 2 Mimo sprites? Oh, she summons 2 Mimo sprites. Wait, she has 3. Oh, she has 3 Mimo sprites. Like one girl with the guitar, and then one girl with the little sailor hat, and there was like another Mimo sprite that's like she was like a jobber. It was like a jobber Mimo sprite. So that is going to be Bobbin's teaser, and then this is going to be Summer Aventurine. Why is this music so nasty? Whoa! Really, really nasty, you know what I'm saying? So that is gonna be Aventurine Waveflair right here. Really, really good angles, and that is why bro calls him Aventurine. So with that being established for both Summer Bobbin and Aventurine, there is just one very interesting elephant in the room, right? Can we just call them as the HSR community as Bobbin and as Aventurine, instead of Robin SP and Aventurine SP? Just call them Summer Robin and Summer Aventurine. Because for the tradition of every single gacha game in the history of all gacha games, whenever a summer units come out, you don't call them SP, bro. Right? Hoyoverse didn't invent SP, right? You just call them by their summer skins, right? As Maru, right? As... I can't think of any other ones, but you basically just call them by their summer version. So that is gonna be number 1. Number 2... Okay, do you guys want to talk about? Okay, I guess we'll just talk about Bobbin first, right? Then we'll talk about Aventurine. Taking a look into Bobbin, Robin, Summeretto. It is nice to see you again. The weather in Astropolis. So that is teasing. Right after Himiko is gonna go into the Nova mode in version 4.4, we are finally disembarking from Planet Arcadia to go into the IPC resort, the IPC island, right? The IPC whatever it is gonna be, which also means, if I can say so myself, Planet Arcadia is coming to an end, right? 4.4 is going to be, I am guessing, the final extension of Planet Arcadia, and that will mean that version 4.4 is going to be the crescendo, right? The finale of everything that we have experienced between Asa Pramad, right? Himiko's dad, right? Murata, Silver Nine, M-Blade, and everything before we completely disembark from this place and head on straight over to IPC Island. But you might be wondering, MrPokke, but isn't Aventurine Elation end? Just because a story has ended doesn't mean that the units from future versions will not impact our team comps. Case in point, right? Dahlia. Okay, technically Dahlia and Fuke, I wouldn't exactly call them Panacony characters, but they still work back with Firefly anyways, because Panacony technically ended with like a little bit of epilogue all the way towards the end at 3.8. Alright, then we just never saw Panacony for like so long until the very end. So I would say if Aventurine is gonna be a quantum aha, right? I am guessing what might happen is that he decides to also be a little silly. So the final boss in Elation being Asa Pramad, he probably didn't actually go Bird Flip Explode just yet in 4.4. Then maybe in 4.5, there will be some ties that still requires Elation to be in relevant, right? Because if the AA game ends, then like releasing all the Elation units doesn't really make too many sense. Okay, but then again, technically Remembrance ended. And we have Bobbin out here being the Wind Remembrance, which we are also going to be addressing very soon. Okay, but let me just move on a little bit. The moist breeze is very moist with the scent of sunshine. I'm hoping to gather inspiration for a new song. Would you like to take a stroll together on the beach and listen to the sounds of sea conch? Soaring clearer skies and bluest oceans, wings swept up in sea spray transforming to new melody. The lingering echoes of memory, she embraces the unexpected along the way, seeking inspiration for a melodic variation. How else can harmony sing, right? So that is gonna be Summer Bobbin's quick little intro. Before we jump off over into Mr. Aventurine, I kind of just want to take a little bit more time taking a look into her design, if I can say so myself, right? So you can kind of just see from this very nice little splash art right here. Let me just bring in a closer look, if I can say so myself. Okay, there we go. We are gonna be addressing this right after I go through her character designs. So for Bobbin's, holy shit. Okay, for Bobbin's character design, right? The first thing that I noticed is that bro is definitely a little bit of a egotistical thingamabob, right? She does have a lot of egotistical problems because I see half of the places that she has her own name, right? She has her own name on her own microphone, and she has the balloons having Bobbin, and oh my god, am I crazy or is that Aglaia? Chat, is that not Aglaia? Oh, it's a Lumin. That is not Sunday, bro. That is not Sunday, bro. That is Lumin. Who is that? That is not Bobbin. How the fuck is that Bobbin? That is not Bobbin, bro. Watch the YouTube short, but it's not bobbing, bro. It literally does not change the fact that that is not bobbing, so I'm going with the fact that it is actually... Okay, if y'all just wanted me to watch a YouTube short just for to show her, you know what I'm saying? Then it is what it is. But moving on into the next topic, right? Her Mimo sprites. Her little summons. To which I believe she has 3 Mimo sprites. Bird 1, Bird 2, and Bird 3. So to my understanding, right, are Mimo sprites not made from Memoria? And therefore it is a Amphoria's thing. So how the hell did Bobbin procure 3 different Mimo sprites? And to that, I believe there's only 2 answers, right? Answer number 1, she stole the birds, right? She stole them from Amphorius and used the hidden IPC technology to bring them back to life. Option number 2, Cyrene will return. That is my guess, right? That is my guess. Cyrene is eventually gonna come out, and then she's gonna watch over New Amphorius, which, if you guys remember from the ending of Amphorius, right? The construction of New Amphorius were directly tied with IPC. And it is so interesting that for IPC Island's first unit, she is a Remembrance unit. So I would potentially guess, following the timeline of like version 3, right? Because version 3.8 was like one final version before they have to bounce off to version 4. We might have a 4.8 or maybe even 4.9, who knows, where we just might take a glimpse into New Amphorius and see how everyone has been doing for the past 1 year, right? That is going to be my guess. Yeah, exactly like Panaconny, right? Exactly like Panaconny, right? Fries in the back. Okay, so yeah, we have one bird that plays a guitar and she has a flower, and we have one bird that is playing on the soundboard, and then this buckle is literally Job, which is so interesting because I'm assuming she forms birds playing music. So she plays the guitar, Bro is playing like the soundboard. What the is this guy playing, by the way? He literally has no instrument besides fries. And last time I checked, fries are not a music instrument, so maybe Babin just yoinks the fries as a little snack in order to nourish her voluptuous, to keep herself in check, as doing concerts during summer, it is going to be very, very tiring, right? So that is pretty much gonna be the design for Summer Bobbin right here. And with that, I can finally take this opportunity to potentially discuss what I personally think about Robin Summeretto's kit and what she might bring to the table for the future, right? And the biggest elephant in the room that I really, really ponder is the fact she's a Wind Remembrance. I did this discussion with chat just now as to which one is going to get replaced in our current Mimo Slop team. And I remember distinctively feeling, right, there's this chat, right, it's like, Mimo Slop is a team that is so perfectly designed, so reliant, right? So much relations with one another that you cannot possibly actually replace any of those 4 units in the team. So if that is not going to be the case, there are really just 2 different outcomes. Number 1 being she is her own DPS. Right, because we technically did see Aglaia being a lightning remembrance DPS. So there might be no need to worry, right? No need to be Mimi sad, because nobody will be replaced in the current main push Mimo slot team. If anything, she might just have a, you know, like how like Firefly had like 2 other break DPS, right? Reba and Boothill. They're all break DPS, right? What if Babin is also just another Remembrance main DPS in tandem with Aglaia as well as Castoris? And one very interesting thing that why I feel this might be the case is because she's Babin and her brother is Sunday. Right, so I feel like I'm cooking really hard here, right? Once again, I don't even look at leaks whatsoever, but I feel like it will be super interesting as Babin joins back with Sunday as a Remembrance main DPS, and Sunday actually turns out to be Babin's support because Sunday can pull up the Mimo sprites, right? Sunday can pull up Bluebird, Pinkbird, and Jobberbird. So that would mean that we are essentially gonna be having a team building experience that could follow the footsteps of Aglaia. Then you are gonna be making use of Summer Babin as main DPS, followed by Sunday as a support. Maybe you slot in a wheelchair generalist third slot like Amblade or Tribi, and your last slot is going to be the sustain. Right, then we are still gonna be waiting on our sustain because we have not seen a single sustain in the entirety of version 4 for now, because we are about to get into Aventurine very soon. So that is gonna be path number 1, right? Path number 2. So this is going to be path number 2, right? As of right now, I'm sure everyone is already seen what is Mimo slot. Right, Mimo slot, I believe as of this very moment, in terms of like different teammates, right, your vertical calls and all that kind of stuff, it is kind of like the face of the V button, the face of the Amphoria's team, like especially for casuals and general players that don't really care about cost maxing, right? Don't you really care about like a Nexa or final whatever? Like most players will probably think if there's a one team that can represent Amphoria's, it is probably this team, right? So with that being established, right, Mimo slot has been performing not even exceptionally well, but like the best performing team in HSR, including Elation. Even till this day, not a single time has Mimo slot ever lost to Elation. They were either around the same exact caliber, or they were slightly stronger. To be fair, Elation haven't gotten their full team yet, temporarily, so Mimo slot has been that team from version 3 that aged all the way through at this point the middle of version 4, right? So if we introduce a Wind Remembrance unit, would there be a possibility that one of these Remembrance units get replaced? So if that is going to be the case, who is going to get replaced? And here is going to be my personal, completely subjective opinion. Number 1, Castoris. Right? I know a lot of people are thinking Castoris is getting replaced, because out of all of the current Mimo slot team set up in endgame content, I believe Castoris is the one that is gonna be slightly behind the curve, especially at a full E0 baseline, because players are trying to opt for either vertical investment straight into Everknight's E2, which is absolutely absurd, or they go just sustainless. Alright, so in terms of highest possible damage output, I could see a world there the main DPS might be changing for another main DPS, which will be super fucking ironic, because like if Babin is also gonna be a Remembrance main DPS, which like I mentioned for scenario number 1, she doesn't use Sunday, but she just used the exact same team that Castorus is gonna be using. Because Avenite supports Mimo Sprites, period. Hyacinth is gonna give us healing. And then Cyrene, I mean, Cyrene is just Cyrene, right? So the reason why I think, personally, this is not going to happen, there are two reasons why I feel this will not happen, right? The reason number one being, my free-to-play account has a E2 S1 Castorus, and as a complete fucking free-to-play, I would be absolutely livid, right? I'll be so fucking angry if Dawei dares decide to bench my E2 S1 Castorus because a Bubbin is gonna out-damage my E2 S1 Castorus on my free-to-play account. So that is just straight up not happening, right? That is absolutely not gonna happen. Reason number one. Okay, reason number two though. Reason number two, right? The reason why I feel Castorus will not get replaced is, how do you know if Bubbin is gonna be a HP scaling DPS? And if Bubbin really does turn out to be a HP scaling DPS, how is Cyrene gonna buff Bubbin? Because Cyrene does not have an ode to Bubbin, right? She doesn't have an ode to IPC. So if we were to replace the Castorus slot and you give in another DPS that fundamentally will not have a synergy with Cyrene's current kit, unless Cyrene gets a Nova Flare, you are hurting the complete synergy of this team for another unit purely because they are gonna be in the same path. Because just if a unit is in the same path doesn't necessarily mean they will always fit in the same team. Because Aglea is Remembrance, but you're not gonna run Aglea with Castorus, right? So I feel like the Castorus being the replacement, it really depends if Bubbin can fully replace someone that has, I would say, one of the top 5, maybe even top 3 buffs that Cyrene is gonna be giving from the 200% new bar charge, right? So that is why I feel Castorus is not. Oh, and also she's girlfriend, and she's anniversary unit, and she's better than Firefly, and she has a global passive, right? So that is why Castorus is not gonna be getting replaced. Okay, Avenite. I think out of all of these 4 options, Avenite is probably the least likely to get replaced because she already has her entire kit as that Mimo Sprite support and a Mimo Sprite sub DPS, right? She provides damage, crit damage buffs with Mimo Sprites. She gains energy and Memorial stacks from your Mimo Sprites action, and she can essentially bind together your entire team from EV as a whole, right? Especially if you want to run like a battery Avenite, which I've been running on my free-to-play account. Just slap on energy regeneration, where I can summon her as many times as possible. So between and her islands, right? Avenite's E1 is straight up perfectly designed for a Mimo Sprite team. So out of these 4, I would say Avenite has the either lowest or second lowest possibility of getting replaced, right? Then with that out of the way, before going into Hyacinth, I want to talk about Cyrene first. Because if Cyrene gets replaced by Bubbin, it will also not bode very well, since the entire reason why Avenite and Castorus works in Remembrance team is because of Cyrene's Amphorius buff. Right, it is because of the 200% new buff as well as giving the additional damage for Avenite. So I also see it being a very, very rare possibility that Bubbin can somehow provide better buffs than a Cyrene, which literally was like best in class, best in slot at EZO, especially with both Avenite as well as Castorus. So with those 2 out of the way, so Avenite and Cyrene, I don't think they're getting benched. That leaves me into the last unit, which is Hyacinth, right? That is Hyacinth. Okay, this Hyacinth buckle, right? First of all, they are both Wind and Remembrance. Second of all, they both summon very cute things, right? Hyacinth summons an E card, and Bubbin summons like jobbers, like the little birds, right? Third of all, What if Bobbin and Aventurine, they both turn out to be a sustain? So Bobbin is gonna be the sustain for Castoris, Avenite, Cyrene, and Aventurine is gonna be the sustain for the Elation flagship. So you have one sustain for Mimo Sprite, one sustain for Elation. And why I feel that Hyacinth getting changed over here is essentially because I personally feel out of the 3 different units, the Cyrene buff that impacts them the least is Hyacinth. Because both buffs for Avenite and Castoris is perma. You cast once and you never use it ever again. Whereas for Hyacinth is a very it depends kind of situation. Like if you have full energy, you wouldn't really use Cyrene's buff on Hyacinth. If you want to charge a little bit more, you could. But then again, you're going to be missing on Cyrene's ultimate damage. So I feel that at this point, whether or not Hyacinth or Cyrene gets the 12 stacks of Cyrene buff, it doesn't really impact as much, and I would rather have a sustain that gains a perma buff from Cyrene, assuming maybe in the future Cyrene has some kind of Nova Flare to include every single remembrance, which brings us to like the new and forest timeline and everything, right? So I think that also opens up the banner where version 4 is gonna release 2 different sustains for this version, paving the way for 4.6 and 4.7 to release the Elation Cyrene, as well as in preparation for the final bit of supports before we go into version 5. Because usually between the end of the version into the next version, they end off the version with a support. Alright, version 2 you had Sunday Fugue, version 3 you had Dahlia, they are all supports. So I feel that version 4 is probably also going to be ending up as a support, and that means the slots left to get a version 4 sustain is not going to be very likely. Or rather, they are like limited slots, right? So that is why I personally think if she really ends up being a replacement, it might be a Hyacinth. But if you were to ask me to take away, like, if I do not have the E2S1 Castoris, right? If I do not have an E2S1 Castoris, if I ask AI to choose one to replace, I think it might be the case where Castoris will be gone, simply because Avenite and Cyrene is too good. And then Bobbin is gonna be a main DPS, and then Hyacinth is gonna support them. Or I would say the best case scenario is legit. She becomes her own Remembrance right DPS, right? She uses Sunday, which will be super fucking appropriate because Sunday is Sunday. So she's gonna be main DPS. Mimo Sprite team is completely unchanged. You use Sunday, you use Mortonix Blade, and then you wait for another sustain that will fit into this team. So those are going to be my personal thoughts on what her kit is going to be. I would say she doesn't really feel like a DPS if you take a look into the kit. I feel like this move is either support or sustain period. Like she is not even targeting any enemy units. And I have to assume that it's gonna be Bro's ultimate, right? So her being a main DPS just really seems kind of unlikely, which makes it even more unlikely that she replaces Castoris. So I would say that, okay, and also to be fair, right, her actual animation right here, besides the point, it kind of reminds me very much to the original Bobbin, where she 100% action value advances the entire team. So that will be very nice, right? Okay, no more Ofiki. We are now going to be moving on into the next unit for HSR's 4.5 drip, and that is going to be Aventurine Waveflair, right? The quantum elation for Aventurine Waveflair. So taking a look into Bro's bio right here. Ah yes, friends, we meet again. I just wrapped up a recent self-explain and wow, giving a smile plaster to my face for the camera is no easy feat. But now that I've been promoted to P46, I can finally go on vacation. Want to relax and enjoy your time with me. I guarantee you will have an unforgettable getaway. The grand festival illuminates the coast while storm brews amidst euphoria. Secret orders in hand, he steps back in the eye of the storm down the long holiday. When treasure waves subsume his figure, how will he emerge as the game changer, right? So that is going to be our little look into Aventurine Waveflair, which I just felt it is so interesting that bro's name is Waveflair, as in Nova Flare, almost as if like he is a Nova Flare unit with his brand new skin, brand new clothes, and brand new outfit in a brand new location. So I would say the general design for Aventurine is very, very down to his personality, right? He is very happy, right? A little bit flamboyant, right? A little bit zesty, right? A little bit cool, right? Like he's showing his chest, right? His abs, and then he's like sitting in like his beach shorts, right, holding all of his bracelets, right, really okay, his shoes, right, you can literally see his toes now, if that's gonna be your thing. But the main thing is pretty much the chest and the abs are going to be fully exposed, which is gonna be very, very nice, right? So with that being established, right, I'm just gonna jump straight into my thoughts for Aventurine's kit and what he might offer to the table, because at the end of the day, he is gonna be a second half unit, right? And there will be a little bit more biasness for a second half unit. So for Aventurine Waveflair as Quantum Elation, right? As Quantum Elation, I must assume, right? Reasonably speaking, I just have to assume he is gonna be the Elation Sustain. Number one, his base kit was the Elation Sustain, or rather the Acheron Sustain, right? Basically, he was a Sustain. Number two, if Aventurine is not an Elation Sustain, then what the fuck is he gonna be, bro? A DPS? Is he gonna be the third main push Elation DPS like Reba? So we're gonna be having the Tri-Silver War for Silver Wolf versus Avanesia versus Aventurine, right? Alright, I low-key forgot about Aventurine short. Yo, it's right here. Okay, anyways, boom. Very nice. That is very, very good. Oh, that is just very, very exceptional, right? Oh, that is just very, very OFiki. Compared to Boing, right? Compared to Boing, I personally am just leaning a little bit more to Boing for no preferences whatsoever. Yeah, but as I was saying, I just don't ever see the time where he is actually gonna be a main DPS. So that leaves two options. Is he gonna be the replacement for EMC, i.e. a support? Or is he gonna be a sustain? And it is a sustain that we have not gotten in such a long time. Right? The entirety of version 4, not even Elation Sustain, but we literally have no sustain period. And like I mentioned from my Bobbin analysis just now, I just really don't see Bobbin not being either a support or maybe a sustain. Because her actual ultimate just now doesn't look like a DPS ultimate. Which is why Casterus mains, I believe you are gonna be safe. So with that being done, if Aventurine is not gonna be an Elation Sustain, I just don't really see Aventurine as being the Elation Cyrene. Because for that particular role, I personally feel Nihilux serves way more as the Elation Cyrene compared to Aventurine. I think it is very appropriate that Nihilux is going to be the final unit that we are going to see in Plan Arcadia. So I'm assuming maybe we bounce off from Plan Arcadia in version 4.5, maybe 4.6, and then for the absolute last episode in 4.7 or 8, we bounce back into Plan Arcadia. Cyrene, i.e. Nihilux, comes back in, and she's gonna be the universal support that you're gonna kill EMC for. So the final team for Silver 9 is going to be Sustainless, Nihilux, Sparksea, and Yao Guang. So you don't even need to run an Elation support, or rather Sustain, because you can just run Nihilux as the Sustainless support, right? So that is gonna be option number 1. Option number 2, you do run a Sustain. Right, you do run a Sustain. I don't see that. I feel like Nihilux has way too much involvement in the story to be a Sustain. Because generally speaking, okay, it's not like I hate Sustains, right? But like, every single Sustain unit in the story, they don't really have a lot of like ties with the MSQ, right? You can see the Hyacinth and DHPD, they are like side characters, right? Luocha and Fuxuan, they are side characters, right? Aventurine and Lingsha, they are side characters. They're like very, very NPCR kind of moment, right? But for a actual support, or like the level of involvement I can see Nihilux in, I just don't see her being a Sustain ever being a thing. So at this point, I would assume that Aventurine is going to be the Sustain for Elation. But that being said, there's actually one other buckle that we haven't seen so far, which I'm actually a little bit shocked that they didn't release her for version 4.5, because I've literally never seen Aventurine and Babin ever. Right, we have not seen Aventurine and Babin in the entirety of Plan Arcadia, so they legitimately just came out of nowhere. But I do wonder where that, yeah, exactly, where is Pearl, bro? Like, I was really thinking that Pearl was gonna be the next strip marketing, and she was gonna be the start to the introduction in the Astropolis, alright, because she is also IPC, and she is gonna be the Elation Sustain because of all of her screen time that we have seen on TV. Whereas for Avenger and Babin, no cap on a stack, if you told me that they were just like skins for Avenger and Babin, I think a lot of people will be happy with that, just as like complete separate skins. But now that they are gonna be a standalone unit, it means that I think the remaining roster of version 4 has been like more or less decided, right? There's Nihilux, there's Pearl, there is... Who else did we miss out, guys? Pearl, Nihilux. Oh, I mean, Hima Nova is really coming, so it's fine. Alright, Asabramaya. Kuchiba? Maybe. Bro, Kuchiba gives me Isole vibes, bro. Yeah, Kuchiba gives me Isole vibes. Clangers don't get priority because Genshin is selling Clanger right now. Screwlum is also nowhere to be found. Yeah, Screwlum is never going to be playable. Right, let's just give out a grip. So, I would say at this point, Aventurine being the Elation Sustain seems to be the most likely case. It's either that or he's gonna be a Quantum Elation main DPS, and then you can have 3 different Elation DPS fighting for Sparksea, Yao Guang, as well as the Elation Nihilux, or whatever that's gonna be. And at this point, I think we will be wrapping up this particular review for HSR's 4.5 drip market. We have yapped on way longer than I expected because I'm just so passionate about Honkai God Rail. So let me know what you guys think in the thoughts and comments down below. Type 1 for Babin and type 2 for Aventurine. Join Twitch, join YouTube, join Discord. Use code POKE for 10% off gamer All the best for your gadget pools, and I will see you right. Thank